Everybody, James Robert Elliott here with David W. Carr of Steward Your Business. We're going to be talking about some really cool topics today, especially around leadership and the keys on how to become a great leader. So, David, welcome, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Thanks for having me. It's after all our conversations, I finally get to be on your podcast. For those of you that don't know me, my background is in organizational health. I've been in the environmental consulting world for years and started Steward Your Business a few years ago, and really enjoy helping people come together to accomplish great things, which involves leadership. So I'm really excited about this topic today, James.
Me too, brother. So let's dive in. Let's do a quick and dirty high level focus here for great folks out there on leadership and becoming a great leader. So we talked about growth mindset, fixed mindset as well. Talk to us, not what it is, because I think people know what it is, but your opinion and how do we obtain that growth mindset and get away from a fixed mindset, which will limit you where you are in your business, in your leadership.
Yeah, I mean, this is really key. Yeah, in the growth mindset of you're coming from a place of abundance or something more out there. You're not coming from a place of scarcity or wondering or being defensive. And so really in a leadership, leading yourself first, that's kind of a focus of mine, leading yourself and then leading your teams, but really is in this place of moving toward and realizing there's something more out there, right, that we want to achieve, and not just like holding my ground, if you will. So that means that's super important.
I love that. And the I love the holding your ground thing you said, because a lot of it is ego.
Yeah.
Ego that gets in our way and prevents us from learning, or no, I'm right. I know I'm best. I mean, a lot of people die to be right. They're like, oh, you can either be happy, healthy, wealthy, or powerful, or you can be right. Right. And have again, like you said, a fixed mindset versus growth. Maybe my way isn't the best way. Maybe there's a better way. Maybe I should be more open to the feedback of my team, my customers, my whatever, versus all these people are idiots, all the customers are idiots, all the team members are morons. Well, there's a chance that's true. However, I think it's always all parties. Just like any relationship, it's partially you, partially them. No matter what ratio it is, there's still a part that's us. And how can I grow? How can I do better and learn more?
Absolutely.
I think a lot of it is getting feedback as well. And you mentioned something offline before. It's that a lot of times people, they're sure, some people ask for feedback. I love asking for feedback, and it can hurt a little bit sometimes if it's like, hey, this sucks. I'd like to see you do this better, or here's a better way to do it. Or if you've done something, we all have that memory from grade 5 or grade 4. Our art teacher said, "Oh, I don't like your picture," or "The sky is blue, not pink," or whatever, and rained in our parade. So again, that causes people to be hesitant to ask for feedback, but it can be so great. But I think the gist of what we were talking about earlier is a lot of people they want feedback, they're waiting for it, but often they don't ask for it. And tell us a little more about that, because I think it limits people.
No, I think that's great. I mean, you and I were meeting last Friday because we live this way of seeking out feedback, James, and how do we improve? I've been in another mastermind group before, and so we've learned to lean into that. But if you're not leaning into that, and if you don't have people in you, around you, that you can trust, part of it is trust, right? You talked about, James. You have to have people that you can trust and open up. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. I mean, that's why you and I have created communities and places for men and women to come into, right?
Exactly.
And to be open and to share and to actually receive feedback. So number one, I would say, like James and I were talking about, because we built trust, we built a relationship. So you need to do that in order to then get feedback. I mean, if you really want really honest feedback and sharing, and you can be vulnerable without any pretenses. So to me, I really appreciate, James, you creating that space for me to come into your world.
Thanks,
and to share. So that the trust is really big.
I think you're right, because we either won't ask for it or we won't take it in. If someone's giving us feedback we don't know, like, and trust, and that's not an authority, that's not credible, we're like just going to discard it. It's like, well, this is whatever. This doesn't match with my current vibe of where I'm thinking. So versus, again, if we trust them, they're an authority figure, they're a credibility. Okay, David may be onto something, or James may be onto something. Which I think is a big part as well in terms of leadership. What else do you see that makes an incredible leader? What are some of the traits that make an incredible leader? Then we'll get into a couple of things, 2 or 3, that make
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a sense of feedback, if you want to invite feedback, and we talking about this earlier, is that you have to show your own vulnerabilities in a way, not having knowing it all, right? You
Agreed.
have to go first, if you will, and that gives people permission in a way to then open up like, oh, you had that problem or you faced this challenge, and yeah, and I didn't get it right even on some of these things. It doesn't define me anymore. That's part of
Mm.
who I was. It's not who I'm becoming, but they need, in a way, a permission. That's to kind of, I don't say throw yourself under the bus, if you will,
Yeah.
but allowing them to see that you don't have it all together, and then opening up the container, if you will, by either having them inviting them to come into your world, like we talked about earlier,
Mm.
offline, like an open door policy. Some of that works for some. Others, you need to go into their world and ask them questions, and then they're like, oh, they're interested, they want to know more about me, and then you can actually start to get feedback. So there's different ways you can solicit feedback. Absolutely.
It is true, and I think a lot of people, we get in our own way, or we make. I mean, humans are meaning making machines, right? And instead
Yeah.
of, there's a saying, life is empty and meaningless. I don't love the saying, but I get what they're getting. I get what they're getting at, and it's that things happen, good stuff, bad stuff. We win some, we lose some, and that
Mhm.
doesn't really mean anything. I think people are so worried about that. Well, if I fail, or if I get bad feedback, or someone says I'm not good at something, then that means I suck, or I'm not good enough, or not worthy, or not lovable, or I'm worthless, or whatever that
Yep.
means. This. And going back to the feedback, I think that's why people are so afraid to get feedback, or so afraid even to take action, take risks, because, well, if I do this and if I fail, what would, as you're hearing your mother, what would people say? What would people think? Or your father, with the high voice. But it's really interesting listening to others, and that voice in our head that has us resistant to risk, resistant to even to failure, and there is growth in failure. You can't grow without
Mhm.
failing forward and failing forward, just like we learn to walk and learn to ride a bike. So I think there's a lot of that too. And again,
Mhm.
the meaning making machines. If I don't do that, then this means blank, or if that happens or I fail, then this means I'm whatever. I think that really gets in people's way as
Yeah.
well, or just the fear of what would people say, what would people think. So
Mhm.
that's people not asking questions. Oh, what if they think it's a dumb question, or I should already know this, so I'm not going to ask? Well, no, ask and clarify
Yep.
as well. What are some other big principles on how to be a great business leader?
So other ways I would say is, like I said, you set, I say, frameworks or understanding. So one way you can do that is, as you develop a team, and this is where kind of my strength is not just you as an individual. One of the things as leaders, you do not need to do it all. It's like relying on your team and others individuals, and figuring out where their strengths are and weaknesses, and empower people in their strengths. I think it's kind of a fundamental. I have a different podcast that I do, and James, called The Intelligent Human Leadership, and it's all about know yourself to lead yourself. Well, you cannot lead others well if you don't know who you are, your strengths and abilities,
True. It's
right?
true. And limitations too. It could
And
be my
limitations.
weaknesses, limitations, blocks. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
Yeah. So it's really, really important, if you haven't done the deep work on yourself and really own, like you said, the strengths and the limitations. We all have them.
Yeah.
And just because you have limitations, sometimes we focus on those. And that's actually, in my experience, not the best place to focus on. It's being aware of them, but it's really focusing on your strengths, and get people on your team that can fill those limitations.
Exactly. They
Don't be
compliment you.
threatened by it, right?
Yeah, exactly. They compliment. Exactly. They compliment you. Right on. Right
Mhm.
on.
You
Yep.
know?
Yep. That's
So
true.
it really is, it's finding those. And I find successful leaders they surround themselves and not threatened. We talked earlier about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Like, hey, if somebody comes in my world, they may threaten me. The status quo may be disrupted. And
Hmm.
so they're trying to hold the line, and they're like, I don't want that to happen. That's not a good leader, where they're trying to manipulate and control the situation
Correct.
instead of being open. And I honestly, James, I would bring people on that knew more than I knew about certain areas or subjects, because I
Yeah.
knew I needed them and I wasn't threatened by it. I'm like, great, power them.
Exactly. I mean, look at Elon Musk, how well he's doing. He hires amazing people, amazing leaders that will do. A mosquito flying around me here. Amazing leaders and amazing people that are often smarter than him, as smart as Elon is,
Right.
smart enough to know to hire people that are smarter than him.
Right.
to do the doing. I mean, Steve Jobs also was a visionary. But did he know how to, I don't know, connect this circuit to this resistor? What screen would work best? No, exactly. He hired people that were brilliant and smarter than him, at least in certain areas.
Yes.
Complemented, like I said. So be aware of your limitations, to your point, without dwelling on them or sulking in them or letting them bring you down, because we all have our stuff and no one is perfect, despite what you see on reality TV and social media and all this stuff. No one's perfect. We all have our stuff. Right. And it's as I saw a cool post today on social, it says own your SHIT, own your stuff, right? Own it. And call bullshit on yourself and let others do that too. And to do that for other people too. Call people out in a caring way, not a jerk way. Call people out. I think that is a sign, I think, of a great leader, holding people accountable, saying, is this really who you want to be? Are you being right now who you really want to be? Or are you being someone else? Are you being the opposite of that person? And is this person you're being going to get you to where you want to go there? Maybe not. And having them answer that question candidly. What are a couple traits of bad leaders to avoid, would you say?
I mean, I believe, bad leaders are secretive. They are, they play politics. They're definitely, not transparent. And so they don't know who you're going to get, kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Oftentimes they're very unpredictable. And so they're not disciplined, consistent, and committed to, I think they're to a larger organization. What I find is they have a personal agenda typically.
True.
And it's not, unless the company is really way off, it's their own personal one. You see this, they call one bad apple ruins the bunch, right? You see somebody gets into a position, and often you say that the power, if you will, of the position can somewhat corrupt them, unfortunately. And they have, again, this goes back to knowing yourself, James. Like, as you know yourself, and I love superhero movies and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, what makes a superhero makes a villain is just how they use their powers.
True.
Right? Yeah. So they can have amazing powers and abilities, but they're using them, unfortunately, in a negative and villainous way, and they haven't learned how to take that and turn it in a positive way and how to impact people. They've chosen it for the wrong reasons and the wrong motivation. So they haven't checked it. They haven't assessed themselves. They're not getting, like we talked earlier in that podcast, feedback. They're not getting feedback. They're closed to that.
True.
Right?
It's true. And they become the villain versus the hero of that, even that self-awareness. Am I being a jerk? Am I being too egotistical? Am I refuting everyone's advice, where people can be feedback and no, that's not true. No, that's BS. Or you don't know better. You're just a whatever employee. Or you're just a whatever.
Yep.
Take feedback. And I always say, take even negative feedback you're getting, unwrap the barbed wire around it. Like if someone's being a jerk, unwrap that barbed wire from the feedback. And there might be something of value in there. There might be something in there to look at. There may not, but I always, okay, this person said I'm this, or I'm that, I'm not this, or I'm too much that. Well, let's take the barbed wire off. And could I be a bit better at whatever, being open or listening or slowing down or whatever it is? And I think that can be very, very valuable. One last thing. What is something else for someone to watch out for, and especially if they see it in them, that makes a bad leader, would you say?
Yeah, I want to go back to what you're just saying about this barbed wire. If you're a bad leader, like you said, if everybody else is the problem, then you cannot fix it. So if you're a leader and you're complaining and you're looking at everybody else, and again, like I said, don't start with yourself. That's a bad leader. I think you need to identify and start there first. Like, what am I contributing to the situation? Own it, like you said, own your stuff. And again, if you're not a leader where you can find, even like you said, maybe 99% of it is not factual, but there's got to be some truth somewhere in there. I would believe that you've contributed in some fashion, that the feedback's coming. So figure out where that is, what that is, identify it, name it, and then you say, you know what? You can start from that part. Like, I'll own mine. And then again, invite the person who's bringing this to you. What is your, what invite them, right? What is this yours? Because if they're doing the same thing to you, they're not owning anything, that's not a good leader. You need to help them own their stuff.
True. It's true. You're absolutely right, brother. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is awesome. We need to do a part two. Any last words of wisdom or tips, keys to become a great leader, how to become a great leader, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'll invite them to come. If you guys listen to my Intelligent Human Leadership podcast too, I'd love your feedback there. Really, it's really, like I said, knowing yourself to lead yourself. And ultimately, if you do that well, you're going to be having success in leading your teams and your organization. So that's where I'm empowering folks to do is dig deeper on who you are and know yourself well so that you can show up for your team.
I love that. And because it's like you said, if you want to lead others, lead yourself first, whether it's kids, your spouse, whether it's your team, your workers, your clients, whoever to lead, and look at, am I really leading myself the way I want? Would I want someone else leading me this way? Would my clients want me leading them this way, the way I'm leading myself, whether it's with habits or exercise, nutrition or mindset or the way you're thinking or the ego or whatever, or talking the talk, or are you walking the walk, or are you just talking the talk? And because that will, I mean, I saw this years ago with different leaders back in the corporate world, and leaders that would not walk their talk. They said one thing and did another, or did one thing and said another. We would just instant lack of respect, of trust, of authority, anything. We would do, the minimum just to do it. But when we had a great leader who empowered us and listened to us, empathized us, and walked their talk, oh my goodness, instant influence for them. But leaders that said, oh yeah, we'll do this and that, or I don't do this, I won't do that, and then they did the opposite. Instant, we were just there working because we're getting paid. Versus the leaders we had that, they lit us up and want us to do better and do more and work harder and follow them in a battle and during tough times or good times, because it's like, I want to follow this person because of their way of being and what they represent as a leader. I love it. I'm going to give them my best and go above and beyond. And I was rejecting offers from recruiters and other companies that were paying more because no, I'm following this leader in a battle. I see me growing and I'm learning so much, and I love their vibe, and I know they have my back.
Yeah. Beautiful, James. It's wonderful being able to be on your podcast here. And, hopefully those that are listening, they see you as a leader, myself, and knowing that there's people forging that path ahead. And I say, that's the thing. If you're not surrounding yourself by those people, find them, get them into your life. You'll be better off for it.
Agreed. Yeah, that's fair enough. You're a direct reflection of the top 5 to 10 people you spend the most time with. That's for sure.
There you go.
That's for sure. How can people learn about you really quickly?
Just Steward Your Business. Go ahead and look up stewardyourbusiness.com. I'm on all the major platforms, LinkedIn, all that. David W. Carr. I would love to hear from you guys. So feel free, please leave a comment or send me a direct message. Appreciate you inviting me and having me on here today, James.
My pleasure, bro. Thanks for helping me out, giving value to the world here, helping others lead and helping other business owners lead and succeed. So here's to your best day ever. And everyone,